Blog Talk
Hey everybody.
Radio.
I'm playing now. What's up everybody? It's your host. We're back. I think we're in. I'm going to make sure everybody's in the chat room. We just finished Person Blog Talk out again. But again, 1 Monkey Don't Stop No Show. And
guys, but we're trying to push through it.
Well, they stopped it and we got it back, so they didn't stop shit. They just delayed it. So thank you guys for sticking around and giving us your positive energy. And even if people are not on and don't hear it, they'll check the blog talk later and then see the archive. So it's all good. That's all good. Okay, well, I'm on the air, so I don't know what's up with that because I'm in. So specifically speaking, of course, in going through all of this, I don't remember where we left off, so we'll just start in a whole new topic. So astrosophically, there's elements to what's happening in this war, in this coming war, World War V, and dealing with Iran, that is symbolic and kind of syncing up with an ancient war that led to the destruction of Iran as well, or what they call Pers. Persia comes from the term Pers, and Pers was the original name of what they now today call Persian. The original Persians, of course, we know are Asiatic, original black men and women, but nowadays the people that are living there in Persia are Iranians. Just go back to the main and then type in Blog Talk Radio, and then it should refresh.
Okay.
From there, we'll see. Everybody can hear me, right? Just making sure. You know what I'm saying? Can y'all hear me? Go out and come back in. But that's not answering my question. Oh, yeah, you can hear me. Great. Okay, so great. Man. So that's what it is. It just gets to a point where, like I said, the more you work, this is the example of what I'm saying in motion. When you are striving to stay consistent in doing you and maintaining the equilibrium that you have set up, this reality, its agents, its minions, whatever you want to say it, will be there to basically hold you up and stall what you're doing. They can't stop what we're doing. Yeah, they can't stop what we're doing. They can't impede what we're doing, but they can delay it. So it's the same universal perspective as we're dealing with the delay in terms of what is a disconnect between our original people and where or why we not where we need to be. Like, through the knowledge, like how many of you or us are tired of always hearing these stories about how much grandeur and all this other shit we had, and then we live in a squalor right now. You know what I mean? These are all elements of the same story. All of these things are happening and being done to be able to, yes, they're doing certain things to create a situation where we become totally beholden and dependent upon them. That is a heavy, heavy retrograde energy. Most of the wars that they're fighting right now are wars manifesting from retrograde. You know what I'm saying? I saw the video. So it gets to the point. Okay. So, like I said, we're at this stage when it comes to this heavy retrogradian period. Can I sit right here? I know. I just need to sit down.
All right. Done now.
You know, like I said, we're at this stage right now with this Mars retrograde situation where we hear like a lot of energy coming through, but in a Martian retrograde in Virgo, we're dealing with Mercury, which is the Earth sign Virgo, which is associated with practical information, mental functions, rationality, being grounded, reason, you know what I mean? Analytical thought, you know, being able to peep when somebody trying to game you. This is the energy right now that's going on. You know, this energy is also quantitated in the 6th house. You know what I'm saying? Specifically dealing with Virgo, which is interesting, being that Virgo is the 6th sign. Also, associated with that now, we have a lot of the routine, a lot of the mundane routine, and a lot of routines that seem to become mundane and somewhat outdated we're starting to wear more and more on you. You're having less tolerance for people's idiocy. You're not really at a stage where you feel like people are. Okay, just save me a piece of that, please. We're at the stage where we got to do the knowledge that this Martian period, like I said, whenever you're going through a Martian retrograde period, this is a revisiting of old wars. You understand? So this war that you see about to pop off with Iran and these people really is a symbolic spiritual war between the deities and the physical or non-physical things that are working in concert with these people that we call the army. So by the process of that now, the same that's in the so-called White House was talking all of this stuff about, unifying and bringing American people together. He's the same one creating more and more constraining devices in American law that no other president has really ever enacted. Like, you have some president enact some wild shit, but he's basically on some next level shit. And his biggest thing is the fact that he is basically, very spendthrift. He don't really care about spending other people's money. And based upon the fact that the financial coming war that's going on is all based on finance, again, this means that the power that they are seeking to usurp is a Martian or Aryan type of power, let's say war-associated power, but this power in war is also predicated upon who is conscious of the true masters of which this war is designed to serve. You know what I'm saying? So you'll get Virgo, you know what I mean, at 23.5 degrees, you know what I mean, in the God of War section of space right now. Then the archetypical thing associated with that, again, passion, desire, sexuality, aggression, initiation. These are the qualifying energies of Mars. So as Mars now is moving, seemingly, it appears to be going backwards against the backdrop of the stars. It's going to look like that until about the 14th of April. You know what I mean? So whenever you see something like that, it's basically going to be, it's really going to be in a huge section of Virgo. You know what I mean? Now, the thing about Aries and Virgos is that they can really get along very well. But a lot of it is linked up in past life karmic or triple karmic relationships in that way. So in that, though, this is still kind of a Mercury retrograde, being that Mercury rules Virgo. You know what I'm saying? So this is really a sign that's, again, dealing with, like I said, the practical stuff, reason and all that, but it's also about seeing the flaws in things. You know what I mean? Virgos have a lightning sight when it comes to seeing the flaws and shit. And in that, Virgo is also sharing space. Mercury in Virgo is also sharing space with Chiron, the wounded healer. So there's an element of the Virgoan energy that's going through a phase in which they are rejuvenating aspects of themselves and creating different, let's say, portals for them to bring a lot of that energy through. So this kind of is affecting a lot. I mean, it affects all of us, but specifically Aries and Virgos in this way are kind of, I wouldn't say targeted, but at the forefront of this retrograde energy. So whenever you get Mars retrograde, like I said, this is a reoccurrence of old wars, old beefs, old unresolved issues. People, who have opinions about you, finding a way to get to you to air them, So if you ain't trying to, really hear that from anybody right now, then the object for you at this stage would be not to take so many things personal and not try to involve yourself with people. You know what I mean? Like don't do shit that most people do. Like, think common sense. Like, don't eat no food with nobody that don't like you. Don't eat food that's prepared by somebody who you're not sure about. You know what I mean? Don't confide in somebody that you don't really feel is your friend like that. Don't give somebody the benefit of the doubt that don't deserve it. Don't put yourself in a position to be beholden to somebody through a promise. Because what people don't tell you is that a promise is a debt. You know what I'm saying? So if you want to obligate yourself to something, be aware of what it is you're obligating yourself to, and understand that every promise, which is a debt, has to be paid. And the person who makes the promise is really the only person responsible. This is where the law thing and all of that comes in. You know what I'm saying? Understanding the difference between what is lawful and what is legal, you know. So this time period, like I said, retrograde-wise, is great for corrections. It's also great for you to be able to initiate new things that you see popping off in your life based upon the fact that you are graduating now into the higher octaves of what we would call the higher spheres. So, as you could tell, the more we pursue a higher agenda or a more direct agenda to who and what we really are, the more the physical reality, which is moving slower than you, is going to put up obstacles to help slow you down. Case in point, what happened tonight with us on the show. Here's a point, what happened today with us on the show. You know what I mean? It's a perfect example of what I'm saying. See? But that's the other thing. That's funny. That's good you say that. Because Selena, right, case changed. So as soon as she seen the thing go down, you know what I mean, there's a part of her that gets into the whole, you know, troubleshooting, workhorse mode, oh, this shit, whatever, and then it's like, then that's what it is. But the thing is, right. Some Virgos or some earth signs that have that mutable trait can be mutable in some things, but not necessarily be as mutable in others. So she's very mutable in terms of switching environments, switching clothes, who hang out with, stuff like that. But when it comes to
emotionally.
But when it comes to emotional certain things, she's very, very kind of fixed. So this retrograde period, right. So as it stands, this retrograde period is to discern, to keep her, just using her as an example, to keep her kind of transfixed. Sometimes she has to detach, in a sense, from people's expectations of her for her to express herself how she wants. Case in point, like I said, as I said earlier, with the Mars and retrograde period, this is a period of old wars, old conflicts stirring themselves back up based upon what somebody feels they're owed or what somebody feels is this or whatever. So for me, as a being, let's say, with the influence of Mars, this appears now in old conflict. So the oldest conflict that I've been dealing with has been that with my children, you know what I mean, and the women that I was in the marriage with, and we had the relationship, had the babies, everything. And then one day, everything started switching up. That's when I started to think, I started to realize that maybe what it is I thought I was in terms of this relationship was not really that. Now, all of us have been there, but not a lot of us go the extra mile. Like sometimes certain things happen to us or will happen to you in your life, and you'll look at it as if to say, like, that's life. Like, this is just something that happens to people. But it didn't happen to people, whatever that thing is. It happened to you. And just because something seems somewhat random in the occurrence does not mean that it is that. So what I'm saying is that there's instances in which we think that we are not targeted based upon the fact that we are not, let's say, doing anything to put a certain vibration out there. Meaning, like, I ain't Martin Luther King, I ain't Malcolm X, so why would somebody want to, shut me down? You know what I mean? But the real question is, why wouldn't they? You have to understand, in a totalitarian society, everybody has to be totally in it. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So it's a situation where we got to look at the environment and where you are, and that sometimes you are targeted. Sometimes when you feel like somebody's working against you, they really are. And a lot of times when you tell yourself they ain't, that's the part of you that don't want to believe that you are actually that important. It's real. You got to understand that what you are here to do, nobody else is here to do but you. So if you choose to do whatever that is spiritually, or you don't choose to do it spiritually, either way, that's on you. But it still don't change the fact that you got entities and individuals in this life that's trying to stop you from doing that. You understand? Because this is the place where only certain entities can function physically. You understand? No other place in the universe, I feel, got the type of balance that we got here. So based on that, this place is coveted. And you are more coveted because this place was, in a sense, manifested for us. So we are living with somebody who has eminent domain themselves in the crib, and now we got to act like they paying rent, and they not. But they trying to make us look like the squatters, you understand? So in my own personal life, this is now revisited in the form of the ongoing or whatever conflict or unresolved issue with my children. And the issue is, if the only way I'm going to be able to be with them is if I allow these women who I had them with to control me. You understand? The way I know that it's like that is that it's not so much about the child. Because if it's really not about me, then you should be able to just free up and let me be with my child or my children regardless. Now, I already went through the court. I already did all that other stuff. But how this revisited me now in this retrograde period is the other day, Selena's online going through stuff. And the first time I found where my daughter's mother was online, you know what I'm saying, stepped to her through the Facebook thing or whatever, and she shut down her page. She shut down everything. Not only did she shut down the page, but her brother, right, another hater, had my daughter listed as his daughter in the picture. So in order for me to get a modern picture of my daughter, I had to basically swipe it. I had to basically swipe it off of another man's Facebook page. So the question is, what about me or my children is such that these people want to act like my kids is theirs? What's up with that? So I started doing the knowledge and started going in on that, and I found out that she got another name, meaning she basically took down her Facebook page and will put up another one now under another alias. Now this woman, since I've known her, has about 8 different names. And I've known her, so my daughter's about to be 11, so 12, excuse me. So that means that for the first, 7 years, every year the chick had a different name. So when I realized that was it, so when I realized that was it, or that this person was not who or what they associated themselves to be, I started to isolate the pattern behavior that I started seeing manifest in her as well as my other son's mother. Because we were in a polygamous relationship, it was 2 women, but at the same time, it was one marriage. I considered it a marriage. And that's how I applied myself to it. But, again, naivete, or me being naive, or me being monarched, right, as a young child by my mother, my grandmother. I'll get into the monarch thing in a second. Me being monarched by my mother, my grandmother growing up. They were working to create the type of male that would be more open and suggestive to emotional response. You know what I'm saying? So, like, all guys who are raised by a single woman will know what I'm talking about when I say that there's a point sometimes where you'll be talking to your moms and you realize that she's not really talking to you. She's talking to your dad, but he's not there. And because you look exactly like him, whatever was not resolved can revisit with you. You understand? Because these relationships and these generational things are cyclical. So in the process of that, that's what kind of put me on the path to start to understand.
You were in a polygamous relationship?
Yeah, y'all ain't know that?
Yeah, I didn't know that you was in a polygamous relationship.
Y'all ain't know that? I thought I told y'all that.
Yeah, that's when I did the Family Court DVD.
This is what led to the Family Court DVD and everything else.
But that's why Aseer also talked about it, because when I first met him, it was also like, you know when you can tell someone is holding something back or can't express something, and it just was real ill, because I saw a couple things that ding, 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 and I was like, yo, you know, X, Y, and Z, and he was like, I never talk about it, and it's not something that I'm too proud of because, you know, the women are really in denial and da-da-da-da. I said, look, if these bitches eat pussy, then that's what these bitches do. It's not a bad thing to eat pussy, but you just can't punish yourself for wanting to or liking to. And sometimes I feel when women aren't comfortable with their sexuality, they almost need another person to physically clutch or, like, secure them in their position. So, you know, women that are always in threesomes, it's like, okay, this is like a freak-off. Not a freak-off, but you enjoy this. It's not about intimacy. This is something that's a sexual act, almost as though a woman, you know, would be like a man, you know, just pursuing another female to F or whatever. When really, I always say to Aseer, okay, if this is what you come from, I definitely am going to listen to your story and be open, because I can't, you know, just be with a woman, period. But it's also to say that these two women that attracted him, whatever reasons, they started punishing themselves for liking each other. And then they started punishing Aseer for not making a choice and choosing one over the other. And then it became like, and the way he'd expressed it, and when I met the women, I realized that they were more interested in an internal competition between each other, like almost showing each other up and using like Aseer as the middle, as the gateway, or as like the person that they could say, look, this didn't work, so this guy pimped me out, and he's a pimp, and how dare I put myself, it's like, no, honey, you don't have sex with someone when they're pregnant and it be a jump-off. You make conscious decisions about when to have fun as a teenager. And then when you pass like the age of 23 and you're doing this is something that you should step back and say, okay, this is part of my lifestyle. I'm an adult. Don't make an excuse like this is just some jump off when you're consciously aware of what you're doing. And, you know, you had great kids out of it. And when you meet the women, you can see why. You know, they won't speak to one another and they won't deal with each other. But it's way deeper than that, and Aseer will get into it. All right, peace.
Thanks, babe. The deeper aspects of that is or was the fact that after a while I started to realize that it really was not necessarily so much about me, than it more so much about this is a systematic illness within our community. Not polygamy, not what you may think. What I'm talking about is the fact that we do not understand that we are generationally preyed upon, not just by the powers that be, but by powers that we are born into and grown up. Some of us, or most of us that's on this tip, are the only so-called conscious ones in a family. So that means that you are the one in your family that's responsible for the future, in a sense, of the family. But the term family will go under a metamorphosis depending upon your perception of that or lack thereof. So the enemy, powers that be, understand that it takes man, woman, child to perpetuate the natural world. So in order to create a quasi-unnatural world, we have to create an alternate form that people are born into this world that, in a sense, may come through the man, woman, child, But if the man, woman, and child are dissociated from themselves, then this will allow us to delay their overall ascension as a people. Think about it. When you hear child support, the first thing that comes to your mind is a black man, right? How can that be? Right? Like, why is that? You know what I mean? Or lack of paying child support, first thing you think of a black man. But according to the man or the law or the thing about the statistics in terms of racial child support payments, white men pay more child support than black men. But black men are prosecuted more for child support. But what is child support? Child support is not the support of the child. It's support of the child's motion within the sphere of the influence of the greater, quote-unquote, family court or so-called society. So in order for us to create a system in which families become factory workers, right, we have to deteriorate and break down the infrastructure of the family. So the way we do that is get the people to adopt an alternative, quote-unquote, lifestyle that then begs the question that if everybody is free and everybody is living in this real world, then people can choose to be anything that they want, which is great. So that also then means, in a broad stroke, that means that people, which are, quote-unquote, beings walking around in the physical world, don't necessarily have to be born human to be recognized as a person, right? A corporation is seen as a person. It's living and breathing, right? But it's dead and it's not real. Yet the unreal dead corporation has more sway in the real world than the actual people who even work for it. Because at the head of every corporation, at the head is a non-physical entity that is manifesting through every member of that corporation and company when you choose to be down with it based upon your job application. That's the contract that you make with the corporation. But remember, the corporation does not exist. So you are making a contract with a non-physical entity. You understand? Therefore, you're making a contract with something that is not tangible. Yet, you can only see the result of it through its tangibility. The person giving you the application, the person, the supervisor on the job, the person hating on you by the water cooler, whatever. So, back in the days, if we go historically back to ritualistic programming or ritualistic identity, we would go back to the time in which, let's say when we start talking about the gods, Asar, Aset, Heru, the first, let's say, royal family or the archetypical version of the royal family, which is also Mary, Joseph, and Jesus, right? Which is also the pituitary, hypothalamus, and pineal organ, right? Which is also the three kings in the Bible, which is also the 3 points on the triangle or the pyramid, which is also knowledge, wisdom, understanding. So as we can see that all of these things vary and are multiples of the same energy, and that means we can identify that energy as a constant. So the constant flow of spiritual energy into the physical world creates the ebb and flow of what we perceive as life and death. So when you get into the old practices and when you look at things like that, everything then that we as a people were living was internalized through a concept that was intrinsic to how we related to each other, ourselves, the universe around us. But there was a point in our history when a conglomeration of lower subordinate deities who were basically reached a point where the energy that they were needed to return back to the essence. They chose not to do that and chose to stay immortal in a physical, non-physical state. But there is a process, a cycle to things. So if certain people don't move up, certain people can't come up. You know what I'm saying? That's like if you're on a ladder and somebody's not going up the ladder and there's a fire below you. The more that person is standing there, the more they keep you in jeopardy. So it's the same situation, especially if you look at the ladder as a symbol of the DNA lattice, LADUS, which is what some people refer to as a helix. What occultists also refer to as the Twin Towers, or the original Twin Towers or Twin Pillars, right? So this conglomeration of these deities basically, like Smith in the Matrix, did not want to go back. So in that, they created a fictitious or pseudo-astral plane outside of this basic reality, because outside of the parameters of this reality is total triple-stage darkness. So physical reality only constitutes like maybe 2% of all reality, in all realities. This is seen in our world and can be verified for the fact that everything that really means something or supposed to mean something and is valuable is something that you can't necessarily touch. You can only feel and have physical representations of, which reminds you of the energy and the fact of the energy and where that energy came from. So these can be referred to as, whatever god clans that in any mythos came and dethroned the Titan. So the Titans represent the old gods, or the pre-primordial aspect of God in the form of realized man that existed in the triple stage of darkness and moved into physical reality, manifesting in arm, leg, arm, head. Thus, with woman producing the next generation of what would be or what would become the original people. You know what I'm saying? So we can call these loose wild deities the demiurge. And the demiurge is composed of any gods that are receiving, let's say, blood sacrifices, of which, and being put in a state of deification. So when these Satanists get together and they choose to do their ritual, their sex ritual, and they kill a baby or something like that, they are allegedly giving blood to this, giving blood, which is a symbol of the bleed. The bleed is the space that exists between the reality, which is, if you think of the universe as a body, the bleed would be the veins or the space between the last layer of skin and where the blood flow starts. So the blood is charged with the dark energy and the dark matter fused in the form of the hemoglobin, or what they call the blood plasma, which is the spiritual essence of the blood itself, which is why it forms in what they refer to as haplogroups, HAPLO, Logroups, haplogroups that form clusters or families that then produce the cells that then make up the thing that is being created based upon the ribonucleic acid, RNA, telling the deoxynucleic acid, DNA, what to make. So the essence then of programming, right, on a basic level, on a primordial level, is to create the ideal prototype or archetype of whatever the cells and the universe is manifesting physically. The demiurge, which again could be, Yahweh, Allah, any manifested God concept that people are killing themselves for. That means that the God is being used or is part of that demiurgical family of amoral deities that subsist and gain energy through death and fear. By harnessing the hemoglobin out of the reptilian section of the brain that gets heightened in forms of fear and attack. So these demiurgical entities throughout the ages have influenced and have helped men, black men, white men, well, black men, white men, and everybody in between, to engender a certain type of being in this world that would eventually be born inherently malefic. These inherently malefic people would be, in history, coined as the dissatisfied, or those people in history that represent a driving force, like the Babylonians or the Sumerians or the Romans, anybody with that type of aura. Our societies that are influenced and manipulated by this demiurgical energy. This demiurgical energy, which is now compounded by the people who believe that they are really in control of the actions that they are doing. When the less they are conscious of the spiritual nature of the world, the more likely they are being manipulated or controlled mentally by their desires, which can then be manipulated based upon the use of vice as a noose of control. So we created archetypes in which to understand how these energies work and how not to be overtaken by them. So the mythos of Asar being murdered by Set is synonymous to the ritual of Heru being knocked down at the knocked down at the east gate and dragged to the west, and then being hit in the head and then thrown in the north gate where the sun wouldn't rise. And then the acacia leaf was supposed to be placed on his grave to represent the fact that he is dead, both mentally and physically, but that the body is dead, therefore he could still rise. The acacia tree, or the acacia leaf is the leaf or the sprig that you'll see in certain renditions of Masonic paintings. This leaf is always laid at the grave of whatever brother is being buried. This leaf is also symbolic of the Milky Way based upon how its leaves and what they call tenders extend. So symbolically, this is a way of using physical things in the world to engender the dead person in the form now of the soul to follow or use the ritual to either rise or stay dead in the husk based upon the consciousness level or the degree that they achieved in their life, in their living life, which is running simultaneously with their waking life. But when their physical life and some people's physical life and the waking life becomes the physical life. You know what I'm saying? Meaning that they go right into, let's say, the dream and don't realize that they're gone. So what happens now is that the mind has to come in with the help of the ego to create energy where people are surrounded by instances and experiences to get them to realize that they're dead. So the more horrible the experience sometimes, the more the experience is dictating a reality that is coming in to show you that you have basically died, or one aspect of you has died now to graduate to the next. So people who, let's say, have never lost their parents would never know what it's like not to have their parents. But people who, let's say, do not have their parents or are part of, let's say, a fraternity or a sphere of people, let's say, who when they dream go to a place where their parents, where they see or interface with their parents. Therefore, that realm where people go in the dream state and do that, let's say at the point of death, let's say in the reality now you go, if you are having a dream where you're seeing a dog that you had at 3 years old, you know what I mean, and you're seeing the teacher that you know died in class, and then you're seeing your homeboy who got shot on the green, that means you're not in a dream. That means you're in the realm of the dead. You understand what I'm saying? There are some people who are listening, you know what I'm saying, who are experiencing that. These phenomena are elements that are becoming more and more apparent and are being put in the play of things like movies like Inception, The Matrix, you know. But we was watching this back in the days with Johnny Mnemonic and Lawnmower Man, stuff like that. So you're always prepped beforehand based upon the psychological profile that is created based upon the sphere you are born into, based upon the caste and phenotype that you inhabit, as a holographic projection of what you would look like if you existed here at this time. So somewhere there's the real you somewhere living the life that you are looking at, the life that you are living. You understand what I'm saying? The same way you would look at somebody on a reality show. So when they created the Truman Show, the True Man Show, they were showing a global perspective of a bubble created for a archetype or certain type of people to be brought in, sequestered. All of that is Yakub programming, and all of that is demiurgically influenced based upon the consistent patterns of the whole system. So what this means then is that in the Bible they talk about a thing called the Guff. And the Guff is the Guff is like the place where souls, the babies, allegedly the baby souls, the young souls, the pristine souls, are being herded into and then being thrust into the alternate version of what this place is supposed to really be. But the barriers between that and this is passing out, which is why these gods are starting to cannibalize themselves and go at each other in wars that are now playing themselves out in physical reality in the forms of these armies and these governments that are seeking the soul of the entire planet. Not just the people, the soul of everybody. So all of that came to a head at a time of what they refer to as monarch programming, a system that developed out of the MK program, brought over by Swedish doctors and ex-Nazi scientists, as well as funded by, the usual suspects. So this form of programming was and is the prevalent programming that was dominant throughout what they refer to as the Vietnam War, which, according to, an overview of research to me, just seemed like disagreement between Howard Hughes and Aristotle and Onassis, based upon a prior engagement due to Hughes's psychic abilities. But his psychic abilities were being amplified due to the technology he was dealing with that he was smuggling in from Tesla, at the same time using reverse engineering some of that into the planes and stuff that he was doing. So he was playing both sides against the middle and then funding other plane projects in which he was the aviation industry from one period. No? Can you hear me? Yeah, it's he basically was it. But he was psychotic. So he would go through bouts of deep schizophrenia and deep agoraphobia and stuff like that. So to the point that he was also an Etruscadecaphobe, which means he was scared of the number 13. So he was also into all of this ritual magic during the time also that he was sleeping with a chick who was down with the JPL, which is the Jet Propulsion Laboratory started by Jack Parsons, Crowley, and MI6. All of this was integrated into the MK programs that eventually became the psychic programs that were then labeled and put into what they call blue and red files, which were or are just different views of how a whole society is brought in. So the monarch programming specifically was based upon the concept of a butterfly being free enough to fly attached to a vine. This moronic concept was extrapolated due to the, again, Nazi influence, Chinese, Manchurian mind control influence stuff that was going on during the invasion of China in a place called Manchukuo. The last emperor, who was Manchurian, which means he was descended from Moors, was a supplanted emperor that was the cousin of the pure blood emperor, but he was, when I say pure blood, I mean that the Asian version of China was to be now the archetype that was promoted. So everybody took the Nazi model and basically coined themselves as their own master race and then fought to usurp and take over other people's countries and then create that society. So specifically, going back to Hughes and them, that resulted in the Vietnam War due to Onassis and them Onassis' ship was the only ship that could travel throughout the whole world or the whole Vietnam War conflict without escorting out, without even being shot at or anything. Because essentially it was basically an operation to see, you know what I mean, if his understanding of the New World Order was going to be the most dominant, which eventually it was. So then they wound up committing Hughes, basically killing him, and then taking all of his stuff and then incorporating that into the Air Force. So it's better that they create the mind control story of aliens coming and killing everybody and having UFOs and stuff than for them to tell everybody that all of this technology they got was left over from the Nazis that they allegedly, that they already was privy to, that they sent their white men and white women over there to die for. They basically came and put all these people in employment and then used the process of Yakubian interbreeding in the years between 1945 and 1965 to then usher in what they call the flower power, the end of the flower power movement into the sexual revolution. Another orchestrated agenda based upon the cyclical movements of the universe at a specific time that are capitalized on by the astronomical events that are marked in people's consciousness based upon their emotional or less than emotional attachment to the whole agenda. So, like if I say, John Lennon, 9/11, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, this brings up assassination, John F. Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, Marilyn Monroe, If you really look back at everybody in history that they really dig up has been killed in some shady circumstance. You know what I'm saying? Nobody knows how Marilyn Monroe really died. Nobody could say that. Nobody could know. And all of that goes back to the early years in which the Hollywood thing, mind control, where the monarch thing really took off. In that place like Malibu, place like the Valley, they grow all the porn stars in Malibu, and then they film them in the Valley, and then certain ones blow up, and then get to go to the Strip. You know what I mean? And then from the Strip, they go up to the Drive, and then from the Drive, they go up to the hills, right? And then, you in the A-list, see? So they're always dealing with hierarchy, because in a pyramidal system, the hierarchy has to be established in order to create the dominance of the species mind pattern that is being subjugated. So in the MK programs that we all grew up under, between the age of, again, 19, if we want to be if we scale it, if we start now, the MK program that we were initiated under was the one under, and when I say we, I mean like everybody, because everybody that live on Earth has been subjugated. This don't mean that you're not sovereign. It just means that you're not sovereign enough not to breathe. You know what I'm saying? You're not sovereign enough not to have your heart beat. So there are limitations as well as extremes in everything. And all things have to be justified to be made aware. You know what I'm saying? So specifically speaking, with the monarch stuff, by using the butterfly template, sex and disassociation was used through trauma-based and initiated through things like the social services programs that led to the prison incarceration programs that led eventually to the privatization of prisons, and then the scientific analyzation of prison work and care, which is the manipulation. There are more black prison people out there doing shit, answering calls for corporations than quote-unquote Indians. So they're American people doing it, but they're all prisoners. So that means this is free labor. This is the association of, or disassociation of how the society is made. So through the Monarch programming, it creates a system in which we all turn a blind eye to negative influences that, whether we want to realize it or not, play a part in how the overall world is being pushed to the point of rapture, which is what they want. They want everything to be totally destroyed so that way it can be built from the trauma-based people that are left behind, the remnants, who will totally forget and don't want to have nothing to do with anything that is something. So they want something totally different, so they'll be willing supplicants. So the different religious factions that are at play in the overall war, again, are just examples of the people who are at war. So the monarch or butterfly template is used to manipulate. Peace, Alexyss.
Hey.
Hey, Queen, how you doing?
I am fine. How are you doing? I'm just in here working.
I'm good.
Just packaging my hair care products up to ship out. How are you doing? How's the baby?
He's great, man. Hopefully going to bed soon. You know, my life's the start. You know, but I'm glad you called, man. I was just talking about and going back to something I was talking about earlier personally. About my daughter's mother, who has had different aliases, you know what I mean, through each incarnation. But then every time one is established and I try to, let's say, establish contact with one, then that one, then she kind of like bugs out and then like disappears again and then pops up again as now someone else with, I guess, the same. But see, the bug part is that there are people around her who were, let's say, when we were together, fighting her because she was with me, right? And then when we weren't together, basically using her again to spite me. But then now at the same time, when I reach out to them to try to, again, get them to whatever, mediate, talk, get on the phone, whatever it is, they then are taking the presumptions of her. But it's like, I know that they know that she's not well. You understand what I'm saying? So it becomes a thing where, you know, I'm not going to involve the devil in it because that's really not going to work. And I spent 6 of our lives dealing with that. You know what I mean? So it's like, now that she's resurfaced, or I found her now under this new alias, which to me is, being we talk about monarch programming, is like a different altar. You know? Each name is like a different altar. Altar being a different persona or psyche that's attributed to a certain trauma, you know what I'm saying, or association that has been transfixed on me. That in some ways, based upon, like I said, how I found out that she knew who I was before we got together and things like that. And then how, after we broke up, my quote-unquote best friend, you know, then was like more down with her, you know what I mean, than me. And then a baby pops up, you know. You know what I'm saying? That looks nothing like me because we were not together. We had never been together since my daughter was born. But it's always been this thing where it's like a karmic thing, you know. And I wanted to ask you specifically, based on all of that, like, like, what can I really do other than, you know what I'm saying, what I'm doing? Because at this stage in the game, I feel like she's doing this to get me to not only conform to her, but in a way impede us. Because it's like we have not only me or my daughter or my son specifically, because the relationship we shared was ours, and Selena was ours. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And it has always been that. So, like, I was with Selena then, I'm with her now. So they don't know me with nobody else really but Selena. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So it was never like I was like trying to supplant them or something. So when all of the wild stuff happened and all that, and then eventually me winning in court and all that, and then them still bouncing with the kids and then making the chase thing going, it's always this thing of like chasing and like guilt. So it's like at this stage, now that she's, you know, revealed herself now as somebody else, like I feel like I can't even contact this person because this person is gonna just do what they do, you know.
I've been through it. My mother is the same type of demon. And I saw her do that when I was growing up. Really, when I was a little girl, like my mother had me, she said I was a great baby, but then she put me on this man that she said was her high school sweetheart. She then went and slept with him and then dumped me on my grandmother. And I remember the programming my mother would do and even the birth name that she gave me that I changed. She would break and, like, abuse me and shit behind my grandmother's back and, like, come in my life when I was, like, she left me when I was in Pampers like at 2. And then she would be in and out from that period of time, and she might come back, like, every 6 months. Sometimes I might not see my mother for a year. And then when she would come around, she would do real fucked up shit and, like, talk to that person, like, that she was, like, trying to twist me to be, like, a real weak personality. So it was, like, certain trigger words that she would say. And then this man, she said, was my father. She got married again, like, when I was 10, and he would want to see us, and they would still deal with each other, get high together, have sex together, and then she would all of a sudden move or flip, or the second man she got married to, she went and got a legal name change behind this man's back that was supposedly my daddy, her high school sweetheart. Then at 9 years old, I didn't even know that's my number. When I was age 9, she tells me, oh, my high school sweetheart's not your daddy. The man that's on the radio, Jackie Wilson, that's really your daddy, but I'm not going to let you see him. But you can't tell anybody. It's a secret. You see, she's putting this into this person with the birth name that she gave me, and that's like a weak, twisted, broken person who don't have no daddy, don't have no mama. Now you're telling me the daddy that's my daddy ain't my fucking daddy. Then I can't tell him he's not. So I'm pretending then you got another man in your life that, and now you done went behind his back and then did, I remember we went into the private judge's chambers and did a legal name change. Then I tell the man who's her high school sweetheart that she got her husband to adopt us, and now my name's not that name anymore. The last name's not. And then he gets furious and is like, why didn't you tell me? She's like, well, I gave legal notice. I put it in the newspaper. And legally, yeah, that's what she was supposed to do. But at the same time, if you know where the supposed biological father is, you're supposed to tell him to give him an opportunity to protest it. But then she moved and changed addresses. And from what you're saying, see, I was in the inside seeing that kind of shit go on, and I knew that my mother still had a thing for this nigga. And she would deliberately, like, move and change the address and then get married to another man to try to get a response out of him. And she wanted him to chase her. Then she would change the number. Then she would laugh and talk with him, see him while she was with her second husband, then play a game and pull away and disappear. And I was in the inside. So I heard this, plus I'm this twisted, real twisted personality, you know, fragmented and pulled, turned inside out of myself. So when I was hearing you talk about that, I know that that's about manipulation and control, as well as I knew my mother was a magician. She was a mental scientist. Well, she still is. So a lot of it was about a lot of metaphysical shit, as well as a lot of karmic debts that she felt like this man owed her. And maybe he did. You know, maybe there's a lot of people don't realize a lot of times when you see somebody in the physical and you're mirroring something many times on a cosmic level and a superconscious level that really has nothing to do with this physical experience that you think is the first encounter. It's really not the first encounter. And the most powerful thing you can do when somebody's doing that and then they done put the children in the middle of it and they still have a slice of you, and then they have the genetic pool, and so they tapping into you on multiple levels. Because they come into you from a cosmic level, from a super cosmic level, from a subconscious and a superconscious level, because they remember something about your previous connection that you don't remember, and they remember the karma. So they come in thinking you got a debt to pay to them, and they want to torture you or decapitate you, put you on the guillotine, and you're consciously being good because you don't remember. And you don't really understand or understand the depth of this battle you got with this female, but she knows and she remembers. So it's like, if I cannot have you and enslave you sexually, mentally, and emotionally, and subjugate you because I remember or I think from some previous experience you owe me debt and I want to punish you because they feel like they're right in this stuff. It's right for me to put a chain on his neck. He can't have no other woman. He can't have no other family. He can't be happy. He can't have love. He can't have other children. I need to drag him down. I need to, suck and feed off of him and take his life from him. And if he won't let me do that, I'm going to make his life miserable. I'm going to fight him until he eventually faces me. He does what I want him to do so I can make him miserable. Or you have to take her power back from her. And many times it's not going to work when you do that on a physical level. Oh, well, let me argue with her. Let me take her to court. Let me fight her. I'm going to win. You won't win that way.
No.
Not to me. Not to what I'm saying. You won't win that way.
Irony. That's the irony is that I'm the one with all the papers that say that she don't have primary custody of the kid. But, again, that's neither here nor there because the man don't want me to be with the kid no way. You know what I mean? The way that I look at it also is that this is I look at things in a long-term plan. And in a long-term plan, I think, it's a play where it wanted to turn into whatever I established for myself, whatever these kids come through, and then they try to use them to dethrone or deface me or say that I'm this or I'm that. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what historically they always do. And for whatever the reason, it's always, or it's usually put in a feminine aspect, you know what I mean, based upon some sort of jealousy, Like I put it out there where I was like, I want her to not only contact me, but allow her to contact her brother. You know what I mean? Like if you don't want to let her do me, let her talk to me. Let her talk to her brother, man. Like they grew up together. Like we had something that was established. And when I say we, I'm talking about my experience, but I'm also talking about every man and woman who's had this experience that we talking about, because this is what the programming is. This is how it works. It's a generational family thing that's imprinted into the family based upon some jealousy or desire that was injected into the bloodline when we were at a point of opulence and it fell. And ever since then, we've been trying to get back to that point of opulence, but while coming up over each other. Like, we can't get over it. You know what I mean? Like, I think you're right. I think what you're saying is true. And I've always felt like there were points where I should have, but it was almost like an obligation, And in that, I think that was offensive emotionally for her. Almost like I was doing her some type of favor, which, again, is messed up on my part. But, again, I'm only thinking at this point, I'm only thinking about me and the kid. That's it.
I know.
Because at this point, it's only me and them. Yet, I got to talk to them through their lawyer. She making me pick this baby up at the precinct. Like crazy stuff that had nothing to do with anything other than trying to get me to, like, I always felt like it was either get me to go to jail or get me to harm them physically some way. You know what I mean? I mean, to the point where insanity. So that's what I'm saying in terms of this programming. I wanted to read something to you real quick.
Okay.
It says they have maps of the universe where a map of the Milky Way could be used when you are splintering the mind of a victim and you are looking for some kind of a pattern to reconstruct it. You would use something like a galaxy map to recreate their mind. You have star clusters planets. When you wanted to have a whole group of alters, which are personalities, that would only relate to themselves, you could put them on one planet, and the only way alters could communicate from one planet to another would be through some type of beam me up type of thing, which in reality, being beamed would be you being triggered and actually disassociated by falling into a trance. So this is what I'm saying in the form of how they are breaking people's minds. So when you see them waterboarding or torturing somebody, what they're doing also is getting them to a point where they can create a mind for this person who's been broken, where their consciousness is going to such a small corner of the mind, of the brain, where now a alternate or clone consciousness, trauma, trigger-based, can be implanted now. And now it's like you're living inside of like a little room, and your window is your eyes, and you can't do nothing but watch what's happening. That's why when you watch certain movies and videos where the artist or the star walks in front of a mirror, the mirror is always distorted, because that's how they see themselves. That's how the reality has warped them, and the mirror is a trigger to get them in a state where they can be twinned or altered. These types of children, like us, are what's called moon children.
Yeah.
Whenever there's an issue and you don't know who the daddy and who's the mommy and when you was born and who was going on and who's Uncle Frank and who's Aunt Lydia really, why they there with daddy, and how is it that daddy live with Aunt Lydia but he's your daddy? Like, how is all this? Whenever it's something like that, that's some kind of magic or something going on that somebody ain't saying. If everybody was giving you love as a kid, and then once you turn like 13 or 16, everybody switch it up on you and just treat you like the worst thing in the world, you was a moon child. That's how you know there's something going on that they not telling you. If you the one in the family that they just or the one in the family right now that they say, don't talk to him, he don't know what the fuck he talking about, that's the one you probably need to talk to. Is he the one or she the one? You might got to clean him up or something. But in the end, he might be the one that lets you know what's really going on. And unfortunately, we don't have anything in the community to deal with that. Well, we deal with this. What are you saying? What are you going to say?
You do, and I do. We're learning, and I think it's others of us, but they're quiet, or they've been considered mentally ill. And a lot of the ones like us didn't make it. They're in mental institutions, or they're strippers, they're prostitutes, they're extreme drug addicts on the street, or they're prescription drug addicts, because the psychiatrists keep them medded up and junked out. And many of those psychiatrists, this is what I've learned from dealing with them in the past, they know who you are. And many of those psychiatrists are agents themselves, they're psychics themselves. They've been trained by the government. They know you, they know your birthday, they know your chart, they done read you. And so when they see you and they know you're one of the ones, and they know when you're going to appear, and they track you and you don't know they're tracking you, when they see those gifts in you, they're going to tell you, look, you need to take these drugs, and you need to be psychologically evaluated. We need to keep you under our care. You're going to spend the rest of your life fucked up because you're mental ill. I know, because they tried to do that shit to me. And I actually sat there and listened. I'm like, what the fuck you saying to me? yeah, you know, this is what's wrong with you. And see, you got that, and I'm saying this motherfucker pull out this damn pad on me with this pencil, this prescription pad right now, all telling me what the fuck wrong with me. And I'm looking at him, and then on top of that, he white. So I'm just like, now, you know what the fuck you saying, and you know what the fuck you saying ain't right. Because y'all could tell by the energy coming from him that he was lying, and then he trying to make me believe that shit about my damn self, that I'm fucked up. I was fucked up because of that abuse and that fraction, but not fucked up like he said, like I was fucking mentally ill and could not see. He knew I was a gifted person. And they want to squash that down so that you cannot evolve and go back and retrieve your soul and then start to make other so-called niggas and black people aware that, wait a minute, you're the original one, you're the indigenous one, you're the one that have the science within you. And that's what I'm saying to you, because I know this experience, because it's like mine was worse at like 12 and 13, but it was already bad as a little girl because my mother was such a master at that shit. And she had perfected that shit. It was just like my enemy gave birth to me. Then this bitch taught everybody around to fuck over me and taught them how to fucking mind abuse me and shit. When I'm little, it's like, no, don't be nice to her. No, don't give her no water. No, don't pick her up. And I'm remembering it was like 3, 4, 5 years old. Let her walk over there in the sun. Let her stand out there. Don't give her nothing to eat. I'm hearing this shit. But she got only people around in the circle, the close, tight-knit circle. That's why usually people don't see that, and usually in wealthy families, because she had secluded, had a lot of money once she took me from my grandmother. People usually don't see it. And it's like in entertainment families, acting families, wealthy families. They keep you secluded, and everything on the outside looks good. You don't hear what's going on. You don't see what's going on. Every time you see a report going out, it's usually the bitch in charge keeping the outside reports controlled and shit. The news bulletins controlled. Then if they really come out that shit, if they ain't drugged out or committed suicide or in and out of mental institute or alcoholic, then they'll really tell you really what the fuck, and you'll see how fucked up they is when they finally get out there and they have the courage to speak about it. They don't get killed off or kill themselves first, or them entities don't get to them. So it looks like to me, when you're talking about this situation, you're such a deep person and mental scientist that you can really work out the mathematical formula and the answer by going deep within yourself. That's the only way you're going to be able to master this situation, master her, and break the link is by going in yourself and finding the key, not overtly fighting her, overt confrontation with her, because you're dealing with a lesser damn being, like she reminds me of a horror flick being. She's a low being, a child of a lesser God. You'll never win because she's a master of chaos and conflict and illusion, confrontation, shape-shifting. This is, see, when people get you pulled into that shape-shift, it's like Bruce Lee's in that movie with all the mirrors. And every time you look, you didn't know which one was him, he didn't know which one was him. All the mirrors. That's all she's going to do, because that's the only way she can play with you to get you down like that. You're not going to win down there.
Exactly. And that's how it's been. It's always been a situation of me keeping them at bay long enough to be a father. So it's like a situation in which it became so, in my case, it became so heavy that at one point I realized that my mother and grandmother and quote-unquote friend or ex-best friend and this other person were all in on it. You know what I mean? Yep. So it became a situation of, like, telling my daughter I'm going to be at church. Like, me and my daughter had a type of relationship. We already had a relationship about church. So as soon as she said that, my daughter told me, she said, I knew Daddy, she was lying, that you wasn't going to be there. And she said, oh, yeah, Daddy going to meet us at church. She's like, my daddy don't go to no church. But this is a baby at 4. She's had to now realize how to outthink an adult You know what I'm saying? This is the position that this person has put this child through and in, to have to be able to use brain matter to work out how she's being manipulated. So I know if she was on that at 4, I already know. One day we was in this. We got over in Georgia, and then we was back home or whatever. We got some food. So we was making her some fish sticks or whatever. She was like tofu sticks, and she was like, "Daddy, that I don't eat meat." I told Mommy I don't do that. I was like, "Okay." I said, "It's not. It's tofu." She's like, "Okay, well, let me read the box." But she didn't know how to read, but she knew what the box looked like from when she was with us, when we used to eat. You know what I'm saying? At 3. This is her now at 5. So I'm seeing how she's already processed what's going on to a degree, and that there's a part of her that I think has, like all of us, that has kept the time that we had or when we were there in a place, which essentially is an altar. You see what I'm saying? So at the same time, I know that this is happening, but I also know, again, this is her mother. You understand? So it becomes now this spiritual thing that these people are in collusion with. And nobody, like when I rattled the bushes and I started calling people or whatever, everybody changed their stuff. Everybody thinks. So that led me to say that it's a greater network, you see what I'm saying, of people who all act like they know each other or don't know each other or come in contact with each other or have sex with each other or whatever it is that's going on. That's people who are not only people working against all of that by not being a part of it, but that's trying to, you know what I mean, keep a watchful eye of being community and how this is now affecting all of us, because this is a form of programming that is systemic in religious or group type programming. There's a certain thing that goes with the group. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But the group really is all of us. You know what I mean? But the sect is the little groups of us that all look at things the same way. But the perception is that we're all going to get to the point, or we all should get to the point where we all agree and then move like this. But black people are the only people who are labeled with that type of shit. No other race is labeled with that type of ideology. Like, you don't see no other race talking about, but it was just this one person. No, it's not like that now. When they talk about the Chinese, they talk about the Chinese government. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So when they talk about the government, they talk about Obama. But either way, they talk about a group of people who is doing things a certain way. So that's the model of how things have been. And that's the same model of how mind control is situated. You know, I've got a thing that read where most people, they say that they came up through a mind control level, what they call level 5, which is somebody who's given mind control to the 5th level, which is generally some sort of cover story. You know what I mean? Like Roseanne Barr. Like, it's generally somebody giving a story like they had an accident, and then after the like they was on the verge of blowing up, and then there was an accident, and then after the accident they nursed themselves back to the health, and then created an album, and then blew up, or they was right about to blow up and then died, or they was real big in the hood, but then never really made it, or they could have made it and then didn't make it again until they old age. Whenever there's some type of story, you know what I mean, like a movie. You know how when you talk about your life, you talk about it from the perspective of you living it, but at points you're talking about it as something you remember. You know, with some people, when they talk about stuff, you listen to them, they talk about it like they read it and just bringing it back to you. Because then when you ask them little shit, he trip them up. And they say, oh, well, you know, I had the car accident, and then, you know, I woke up in the hospital, and then I nursed myself. Oh, word? Well, what was you wearing what was you wearing the day of the accident? Oh, word? Well, where were you at 15 minutes before the accident started? The more you ask them shit like that, the more they start looking up and to the left. Yeah, up and to the left, and you start to see them creating it. You know what I'm saying? They create.
I don't know. I don't know if you saw my documentary where I was sitting there talking about my experience and where I went to the graveyard. You could study me and see. I don't know if you looked at me to see if you thought, you know, it looked like I was lying or repeating something I read, or, you know, to get a feeling on.
No, I'm not talking about any of us, let's say specifically. I'm talking about what happens subtly that we don't peep because we are not taught that this is something that happens to you as a being here. We're taught when we're children not to run out into the street. We taught to make up our bed. We taught to say our prayers. We taught to take out the garbage, right? We taught, you know, how to balance a checkbook, taught whatever. But we're not taught how to use your thoughts, what your thoughts are, where your imagination comes from, what it is. We're not taught how to recognize psychological and psychic attacks from things that are not there. Like the brother saying on the chat room, saying people with mental illness. A lot of these people with mental illness are not necessarily ill. They are just processing things at such a rapid rate that they are moving at a pace mentally that's outside of this reality. So anything that people don't understand and label as crazy or insane, you know what I mean? Crazy is a general diagnosis. Insane is criminal. You know what I'm saying? It's not necessarily me or you or even, let's say, my baby mother. This is something that we have all been dealing with without realizing that this is what we're dealing with. We don't have nothing in our community to deal with this other than what we're doing right now. You know what I'm saying? But we don't have no place that we could go. You can't go to the church and tell them that, you know, you think that, you know, there's a long-term governmental. You could go to them with the evidence. You could go to the pastor with the evidence with the CIA in 90 said that they brought crack, sold crack in the government, in the people, and the FBI report that says that they are here to stop and kill the Black Messiah. You could go to them with the report. And the pastor, what he gonna do? What he gonna tell you with that? He making money with them.
No,
you know what I'm saying?
This is what I'm going to say. A lot of them do know. When I was a little girl, I knew what it was. I mean, because I could see and hear the entities, and I knew my mother. See, this is what a lot of so-called Black people don't realize. A lot of our parents or family members, they seem normal, and they're agents, or they've been programmed. Some of them know it, and some of them don't. Just like my mother had done all of the astrological chart on me. And I remember, because she was heavy into that stuff, and she would say, well, I know your whole chart. I know what's going to happen to you. I know what's not going to happen to you. I know what you're supposed to be. I know what you're supposed to have. I know what you're supposed to be doing. And this bitch did everything she could to systematically fuck me up and block it.
Right.
Because she already knew my destiny better than I did. And I remember seeing her have meetings with the police, and because she was a psychic and a healer, and they would like, okay, we want to know where this body at, we want to know where that body at. And it just came to me when I was seeing her talking to you. I was a little girl.
I'm sorry to cut you. That's called a necromancer. That's called necromancy. When you commune with the dead to the point where the dead can tell you where the bodies is at, that's a form of what they call dark communion. And there's a ritual that's in voodoo, as well as really Santissimo Muerte, where they get the daughter and they get the daughter to embody death and then find a way to ritually sacrifice the father. You know, but that's usually like in Latin stuff on the dark side of Santísima Muerte, and that's the whole thing is like that. But
yeah, but you have to realize a lot of us don't realize. We're just told we niggas, but we're not. We have Latin blood. We have that history.
You have that. You're right. Right.
Mm-hmm. And so that's a natural ability that runs in my family. I have that natural ability, but I'm not an evil person. But that's the way I was born. It's like I'm saying to say that a lot of these people do know. A lot of our relatives do know they have dark secret science, and a lot of them use it. They born pure goddamn evil, even though they have those gifts. They take that on the dark side. They born with a black goddamn heart, literally. Because this is what she set me up for. Just like your mother set you up, your grandmama.
Yes,
so you
my father and my grandmama. Right.
And then they'll bring women to your life, like she brought that baby mama there. They be setting that shit up on the cosmic and the psychic level, and they'll make sure people come in your path not to help you and illuminate you, but to jam your motherfucking ass up worse, because they don't set your birthday up, or even if they didn't directly set your birthday up. They already charted your whole goddamn chart, and that's what I was saying. What I keep thinking about you is that the science is within you. The science on these hoes that you're dealing with that's low level, that want to bind you doing this damn low level evil shit, and you know them because you're a master of the universe yourself, and you went into the right field with the cosmology of the universe, astrology, numerology, medical astrology, all of these things. You are a doctor in those fields, and the deeper you tap within the universe, then you'll know that nothing and nobody down here can conquer you or jam you up in shit, because you have the solution within yourself, within your own mind, is the cosmology of everything, because you were born a doctor. So the deeper you go from yourself, you'll see what she is, which is nothing. A minute atom that you can go within the nucleus of it and crush it anytime you want to. This is just a temporary experience, and it's really all.
That's how I feel. That's how I feel about it. Yo. I really feel that way about it. Like it's very much like I'm not gonna fight you to be what I naturally am. And this is also you being used by the demiurgical entities, by the non-physical gods, or because each one of these authors probably got a different view on the Creator. You know what I'm saying? Because that's how they do it, because they build the mind from the pattern of stars and star maps. So once they break the person totally, they then go move them into isolation, and then from isolation bring them into the point where they are almost in a vegetable altar state. A vegetable altar is when they make the person almost immobile, where they're almost like a they make the person think they're a carrot, so they don't move. That that is still. And then in there, they start to implant them with the new imprint of what their mind is going to be, the clone mind that they are now trying to imprint. So if they want you to believe that you was actually really a robot that became human, you know what I'm saying? They can make you think that, and then you go out and act like a Terminator in real life, you know what I'm saying? And then they use you to see how far and how long the programming they put in will last. So they get a white boy from Idaho or from Bay Ridge, and then give him some money to go out and learn how to be in the Taliban, and they mind control him. He's being mind controlled by the people, the CIA mind control, you know what I mean, to go out there to mind control people. So essentially he's getting third-hand, second-hand mind control from somebody who's Arab, right, but who's also going through the whole, they call it apoptosis, where it's called programmed cellular death, where they force the subject to the form of torture where the apoptosis gene clicks on and they just die. This is what they're striving to get the people to be on with this MK Patriot stuff, or this whole, New Age warfare stuff they want to do. They want to get people to be able to activate people wherever they at. So put soldiers and wipe the fact that they were soldiers and put these people into the basic communities and the societies in the country And then at a given time, the emergency broadcasting come on, and these people get activated, and they start killing everybody, start wilding out. You know what I mean? Like, these are scenarios. Like, they have actively right now. No, this ain't to perpetuate fear. This is what they do, but this is also what they want to do. So the likelihood of it happening to you, meaning us, is almost 1 billion to 1. Because in order for them to do this to something like us, they would have to raise their vibration up enough, you know what I'm saying, to get somebody enough that we trust enough to weaken ourselves enough, to give them the energy to come in and then use this person to somehow break us down. So you're not going to create a Tupac situation for me. You're not going to create a death row situation for me. Like, that's not going to happen. Like, it's not going to be a rap shooting for me. Like, that is going to happen because it's already happened. So
me too. Yep.
I'm striving to look at things like they're already gone. Like, this is already over. They've already destroyed everything. They've already got rid of themselves. There's not anything we need to really do. And in saying that, it's almost like it's a broad statement, but there's a part of me that is looking at my personal situation with what's going on with my daughter and my children. It's almost like every overture that's been made has been, like, manipulated and, like, made to look like I'm not. So, like, shit like I would send shoes, right, or buy him shoes, and then when I see him again, he only got one shoe. You know what I'm saying? Or I would mail stuff, and then stuff would come back in the mail. Or then I would hear, well, you don't send me no money. Then I say, okay, well, send me the address. Then I hang up. Then the next time I speak to you, yo, you don't send me no money. Okay, what's your address? Where you at? And they hang up. You know what I'm saying? It's like crazy. So then this point's where I literally, like, bugged out. Like, really screamed at this chick. Like, what the hell are you doing? And all that does is upset me, upset the baby.
Yep.
And then it got to the point over the years where I got so detached emotionally from this situation that I'm almost literally disassociated, like, with her, not the baby. The baby has nothing to do with it because me and the baby is still in the altar that was created based on the trauma that was created when she called the police to split us up. So there's still a part of us that's still in 2005. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Me.
Yep, of course I know.
My daughter, my son, that's still in that they know nothing really about because they were never around when we were a family all together. And it's almost like other children were created to almost justify, like, break them up, like, see, it's okay, you got another kid, you got another sibling. So the time that you spend, it was like whatever. That's programming. That's monarch-based programming. This chick, when I went on the site and found the site that she was on, there's first thing you see on this shit is a butterfly.
Wow.
First thing you see is a butterfly. Then you see a bunch of women, all single mothers, mostly Caucasian, holding babies. Some Caucasian women holding black babies, right? And all of the women are in a straight line looking with the same type of smile, robotic smile, and they're all holding children or whatever that look like, I mean, they're all dressed in this drab, like, khaki brown men's suit jacket and, like, men's pants. And then the background is very, like, drab, very basic, you know what I mean? But then when I did the knowledge to try to look into different aspects, to try to contact her, all of it is really, like, difficult, which means that you want to be out there, but then you don't really want people to really know you. So that's, again, another sign of being in a situation where not only children are being manipulated, but we as people, because this is time now I'm spending just to do this. You know what I'm saying? Which is then me now giving her mental energy. You see what I'm saying? And the situation, mental energy, because it's never the children. This is really about the destruction, I think, of us. Like what our parents wanted to do, whether they knew it or not, they did it. And at the same time, they could have done better, but for whatever reason, it still turned us into who we are. You know what I mean? So there had to be something in it that we incarnated experience-wise where we went through it to know what we're talking about when we see it. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But there's nothing other than what we're doing in our community that addresses this in a productive and acknowledged fashion. That's what I noticed. Like, there's stuff for abuse, but there's nothing for ritualistic, satanic government abuse. Like, there's nothing in our community that deals with the government, the purposeful government. Like, we had nothing in, there were no Tuskegee hearings. You know what I'm saying? You make the movie Red Tails and everybody, that's dope. But what about the people who were given syphilis, the other side of the Tuskegee experiment, who were related to some of these men who are out there going through that? The people who were given syphilis, telling them they're bad blood. It's the book Bad Blood and Medical Apartheid, and you can read about that. Global 2000 program to degenerate black people. But in that, there was never anything done in that. The government plain admitted that they created crack and told people how to cook it and gave it into the community and did it to fund Contra rebels that they then could use to set up a war with Iran that they're going through right now. So how have we really got going forward? We haven't. Because the people who have been perpetrating us, some of us still getting money with. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know?
But what do you really want to do? Because I'm seeing here, you must take the way of the master. And it looks like this is a bad thing, but it's really not a complete bad thing for you, because you have to become the master here. And this is one way your ancestors are making you look towards them and finish your ascension. Mm-hmm. And for you to know who you are, because you're the winner and you're victorious in this. And even in the physical realm, dealing with the children's age and all of that, this will not last forever. They have to grow up. They have to become adults. But you won't be able to continue to do stuff like this, and you will have to fight her. But you're going to have to ascend to fight her. And the only way, as I said earlier, that's what my spirit said to me, is to master the science within yourself. Since you're the doctor, you're the physician, you're the teacher, you're the healer, you come back in this time to become the master by going within yourself, getting literally the universal code of all these sciences. The link is within the deep nucleus of your mind. And that link right there has all the answers to why you have the connection with this lower being here, why you came through a lower being that gave birth to you, and then she came through another being. These are literally, you're fighting like lower level masters, females that have taken lower level oaths, but you're really higher than them, they're female. This is what I think the lesson to you as your ascension. It's really not as bad as you think.
Think so.
That's what I
think. You're right.
Yeah. You come into your power, you come into the other half of yourself, the deeper knowledge of yourself, where you don't have to physically fight. That's not the way you fight, not to win. Some people, I can't do that either. That's where you lose. That's not what you can do.
For real. That's when things really go south on me, when things get to that level. But then it gets to the point where it's like, if I don't, it's a situation like with me, what I'm sure with you, as again, we have both been products of this sort of programming that nobody in our community has taken serious enough to hold anybody in the government that they choose to be a part of to be held accountable. So in that, all we can do is, do what we're doing. But in the process of that, by bringing awareness to it, it triggers and breaks up certain programming that's already activated in people. Like what I realized in doing work in helping deprogram and get people to, like you said, look within, as well as myself, I've found that a lot of things is also based upon self-esteem, and respect, and that some people are born here to be slaves. That's what they have been perpetually putting themselves in a position to do that, like willing supplicants to be set up for stuff. But most people who are degenerate gamblers gamble to lose. They don't gamble to win, because when they win, they're not happy. When they lose, they have something to focus on and something to live for, because they're at the edge. Because some people only feel alive when they're at the edge of death. You know what I'm saying? And Caucasian people have the metal on that. You know what I mean? Like, nobody exemplifies that but them. They would jump off a mountain, a building, wrestle an alligator. They'll do everything and anything to prove that they don't need melanin or God to survive. You know what I'm saying? And whether they live or die, they have a society in which somebody can make up what happened that didn't happen for them. And that can be what becomes in the history books that then all the niggas and the rest of us is forced to learn and act as gospel. To the point now in the age where we come, we got to now work twice as hard because half the people believe that this and, you know, that exists. But at the same time, I think that there's, like you said, children of a lesser God and degenerates who are fathers and mothers, black, white, whatever you want to call them, you know? Yeah. But it don't change the fact that they still created something that exists here. And some of these people are creating babies in artificial means through trauma-based programming and things like that to purposely retard the rest of us and the rest of our children. And that's not cool. But again, there's nothing in our society, in our community, other than what we're doing that actively deals with this as a mainstream epidemic in the black community. We do not accept the fact that we are preyed upon by every other race on this planet, man, including us. We don't really deal with that because we don't want to deal with what...
Huh? Hello? Hello?
Hey, I'm back. Can you hear me, love? Peace. Hey, Queen, can you hear me?
Hello?
Hey,
hello?
You can hear me, right?
Yes,
I can hear you.
Okay.
You know how they do.
I know. I'm used to it.
Right? But, no, I appreciate you calling up, you know, down to the last couple of minutes. And I appreciate you holding me down and giving me some great advice. All of us, great advice on our situation and supreme wisdom on our situations. Because
I've been through it.
That's needed. Because when I saw her, when I saw the image with the new name, it was like, okay, this is like the 8th name now. You know what I mean? Like, this is definitely not a pattern. This is her reemergence, and this whole monarch thing is all about reemergence, and butterflies, and coming out of the cocoon, and becoming the new you, and, you know, ride the light, ride the wave, you know, catch the wave, you know. All of these slogans, open happiness, all of these things are little things injected into society to trigger people to do dumb shit like steal people's children and bug out and kill people and all of that. And it works because nobody believes that people do that. Yet still, every movie we see, people are doing that.
Okay.
Everything we see on TV leads to people doing this. They have a TV show called Dexter, where it's all about a psychotic person, a psychotic coroner, who for like 5 seasons has been mutilating and killing people and having babies and teaching the baby how to mutilate and kill people as an infant. Like, this is the type of shit that's on TV, you know? But then when we say this is what's going on, people are like, oh, well, you know, this is just how things are. And it's like, nah, we wasn't doing this in Africa. We wasn't doing this. We wasn't even doing none of this 100 years ago, 50 years ago, 60 years ago. We wasn't even thinking about any of this stuff because none of this stuff was relevant.
I don't know, baby. I don't know because I grew up in a family where I saw stuff like that. I mean, so
I'm not saying that don't happen. I'm not saying that don't happen. I'm just saying that people don't believe that happened. Most black people are still functioning from the level of like, oh, that's spookism. It's none of this has anything to do with us getting out of our situation. And I'm like, you better take that serious. This is the problem. This is why we ain't nowhere, because we don't take shit like that serious.
I've seen a lot of conscious people that have a lot of knowledge and book knowledge and science, and they will tell you that's what's real and that's what matters, and everything else is spookism. It doesn't exist. And I'm like, I would be really fucked being in their circle because they would tell, like they say about me now, that I'm mental ill and I have a problem. But at the same time, I'm not getting caught up.
He's mentally ill? Yeah, I didn't know that. Somebody said he's mentally ill.
Yeah, they say I'm crazy, I'm mentally ill, I have a problem. Because of the things that I say, but, you know, at the same time, everything I said about them has come true. It's coming out. It's been verified. I'm not getting caught up in these polygamy circles. You know, I'm not in between man to man. I ain't having babies by different men. You know, I ain't caught up in no orgies and doing dope and shit and got niggas that's doing orgies and group sex and lying to me and lying on me, fucking this bitch, that bitch, living here, living there. I'm not involved in none of that. So I'm not the crazy one here because I can see through all the books and knowledge that they got while they talking about I'm crazy. I'm going to stay on the outside looking in. I'm in it and not of that shit because I can see through it.
It's all being revealed, man. You know what I mean? Like, it all is what it really is boiling down to. And now is the time for people to allow themselves to love themselves enough to accept the fact that what you think or what you are afraid of is the very thing that you're going to be confronted with and the very thing that you could be consumed with. And I could tell you, based on my own experience, one things I never thought of, but I guess was something in the back of my subconscious, was not being able to be there with my children more than anything else. So when it started to manifest, it took me about 3 years to get out of the shock. I'm getting beat up in court, not even really knowing how to function, just based upon what you got to deal with mentally to get to the level to keep them from awful for you in that place. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then, you know, having to at the same time find a way to be with the child, knowing this woman's going to violate everything, and these people going to let her do it just to spite me, to almost keep me from being with the child. Yep. It was almost like there was an agenda with these people. It was like almost like pursuing the whole baby mother thing more than anything else. Like wanting to be a baby mother more than you want to be a single mother, wanting you want to be a mother, you know? Which, based on what goes with that, it was almost like a badge. You know what I'm saying? Or the way that they was putting it forth in the court, like, this woman did this. And it's like, but I was the one with these babies every day. But at the same time, the court is not set up. That place is not set up to deal with somebody or people who want to be there for their children.
Well, you have to realize this. They'll see who you are. You'll think they don't see you, and they'll decide, you know, I'm not going to give him shit. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to give him shit. Because they'll see who you are. You have to realize most of them are metaphysical masters up in that damn judge robe up there. Most of them are mental scientists, metaphysicians on the dark side. Some maybe on the light, but most of them ain't, and most of them is damn homosexual. So they see you and see what you are, they're not going to help you. They're going to help her.
I attest to that. And again, this is where we are. So, again, Queen, please let them know when you're going to be on the radio again so people can see you.
I do, Coach Kaya let me use his channel. I do my show Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. and also people interested in my hot pepper oil for the hair, they can also use it for the body, aches, pains, arthritis, stiffness in joints. I make that for as well and customize natural hair care products. They can contact me at alexysktylorvp@gmail.com or either look at some of my clients on YouTube and look at my hair testimonial from different clients, different textures, different races, and look at my store at alexysktylor.net.
That's what's up. That's what's up. Thank you again, Queen, for coming through and blessing us with your presence, and I really appreciate you granting me that wisdom and keeping it real with me. So thank you again, and thank you, everybody on Super Heru. If you want to please check us out, give me an email at houseofl@hotmail.com. You could also, please, also, I want to give congratulations to Selena for putting out her Melanated Yoga DVD, which is now Melanin Active Yoga DVD, done by Selena, the Empress of 10,000 Years. You can check our Facebook page at Aseer Ali Cordova, as well as it's $30. It's the best workout you've ever seen, and it's strictly for, people who are really trying to ascend, for beginners and advanced people. So it's definitely commendable, and I really appreciate her putting this effort out. It's really, really powerful. So please check it out. Yep. Any questions, email us at houseofl@hotmail.com. And I'll go on record saying she's one of the only original women with her level of consciousness that's doing this. You know what I'm saying? Just like you're the only woman of your original consciousness that's doing what you do. So therefore, you need to be commended as goddesses in this, all artists and gods and goddesses, as well as the ultimate creator, needs to be given thanks and praise to get us to the point to realize this. So thank you again, Queen, for coming through. Thank you guys for being patient with us despite all of the problems. And we'll see you guys sooner than later. Peace to you.
Okay.
And speak to you soon. Peace.
Okay, talk to you soon. Love y'all. Bye.
Peace.